Good morning, guys. Good morning, guys. We'll wait for a couple of minutes so that others will join. Okay. We have passed 2 minutes, so I think we will start our lecture today. So this is third lecture of unit number 2. Uh, Let me just share my screen with you guys first. So basically, we are dealing with design of shaft. Right. So in first few lectures, we have gone through the basic procedure. First, we try to understand what is a shaft, what are different load or kind of stresses in shaft, and depending on that, we design the shaft. In last lecture, we took a numerical of what it's not. It was not a what you can say detailed or not a complicated design. It was a straightforward plain design where we used this formula for design of the shaft using the maximum shear stress theory, right? So here we use formula tau max 16 tau max is equal to 16 upon pi d cube root of mb square plus mt square. So for this in that numerical in the numerical we took we were trying to find out basically designing a shaft means we are trying to find out diameter of the shaft because generally shaft is a rotating member. So right, so diameter of the shaft is the shape of the shaft is generally circular. So finding out the diameter is the design of the shaft. So for the design, if we are using maximum shear stress theory like this equation, so here there are three parameters: tau max, diameter, and bending moment and twisting moment. There are two moments. So if we know the tau max, that is allowable shear stress, which we can find out by using equation 0.5 SYT upon factor of safety. Then we have to find out bending moment and twisting moment. Then we can find out the diameter. Now twisting moment is torque. If we are given power, then 2 pi nt upon 60 using that equation, we can find out the torque. And mb is bending moment. For bending moment, we have to find out the bending moment at each point on the shaft, and then take a draw SFD BNB basically and take a maximum bending moment, right? So we use that method, and then we found out the diameter in the last what you can say numerical. So today what I will do, I will we'll go a little bit ahead, and we will try to design a shaft on the basis of ASME code. So now this is what is ASME code. Now see, now we know how to design a shaft. So we know the basic procedure. Uh, so the thing is that now we have to go ahead and do little bit what you can say advanced designs, like design using ASME code, or maybe design of a hollow shaft, right? Or design of on torsional rigidity. So these are what you can say advanced design. So we will do it step by step. Like every lecture, we will try to have one kind of concept. We'll try to understand new advanced design, and then we will take a numerical on that. So that way, you are not confused, and slowly you will understand all the different kinds of design. So all these are basically different types of design, but we will use them depending on the application. Like today, we are going to learn design of a shaft using ASME code. And today I'm going to do one more thing, which is different from the whatever we do all the time is like uh, today's I will take a numerical in the Word document itself. I have written all the details, and I will try to explain it just so that if you have any kind of will have a one-to-one communication. Any doubt is there, you guys can ask me in the chat or on the call, right? So just as a change, we will take that example numerical. So next example, I will take again on the uh, blackboard on the with the chalk and all that. So for today's this thing, we will take the numerical in the PDF itself and see how it goes. See, whether I can answer any of your questions. So to first we'll in a few minutes, 5-10 minutes, we'll try to go through the concept of this ASME code, and then we'll take an example on that. Now, what is ASME? Is American Society for Mechanical Engineer. So basically, it's the same equation, whatever equation we are using, but that equation we used in the numerical, or we have seen in the first few lectures, that is not sufficient. That doesn't take care of all the things, because we cannot rely on that design because many things are not considered, like keyway or any other impact load or shock load. So those things are not considered. Like say if your shaft, because your shaft is not going to be say maybe in the vehicle, shaft is it continuously undergo different kinds of impacts or cycles. So to consider those, that equation is not sufficient. So for that, ASME has American Society for Mechanical Engineers. They have proposed what you can say a design of the shaft using. They have a different a formula for that. Not formula, but what is it? A procedure for that. So what they are doing now, first step of ASME code is like the allowable shear stress, like permissible shear stress. They take either zero point 0.3 of SYT or 0.18 of SUT. So if ultimate stress or yield stress, right, of the material, so depending on that, we will take zero point 0.3 of SYT or 0.18 of SUT. So we will find out. But allowable stress in both cases in using SYT and using SUT, and then whichever is minimum we will take for our that design. Okay. So first step. So in generally what we do, we take SYT multiply 0.5 divided by factor of safety. So instead of that, we will use this formula for finding out allowable stress. So this is the first difference from the regular procedure, right? What is that? We will take 30% of the SYT or 18% of SUT, and whichever minimum we will take it that for the our design. Now this is for the regular shaft, which are shaft without keyways, but all the shafts will generally will have a keyways, right? Without keyways, there is of no use of the shaft. So if the keyways are there, or if we have a keyway in the shaft, then we will reduce these values by 25%. So we will, whatever values we have, we will be getting, we will reduce those values by 25%, means we will take 75% of allowable stress. So now if say, if the SYT is 500, then zero point 0.3 of that 500 becomes 150, right? And then 0.18 becomes 540. 18 of 90. So 150 and 90. So in that case, we will take allowable stress as 90. So if the ultimate, so depending on what you can say, uh, these two, and multiply that again with 0.75 to consider the keyway. So now my allowable stress has come little bit more down uh, because of the keyways. So I have considered 20 extra factor of safety or extra factor to just 0.75 to just consider the keyways, right? And we will use those now as our allowable stresses. Okay, so that is now we got the, so there, see, this is the equation what they have as per the ASME code. Equation for design of the shaft is, allowable stress is equal to 16 upon pi d cube into kb into bending moment square plus kt into twisting moment or the torque square and root of that, right? Here they have introduced the factors kb and kt. Now what is kb? Combined shock and fatigue factor applied for the bending moment. And similarly kt is combined shock and fatigue factor applied for the torsional moment. So for bending moment and twisting moment, they have come up with the factors, because all things are not considered in a design. So what they have come up with a factors for shock and fatigue, because your shaft will undergo different kinds of shock and fatigue. So to consider those, they have factors kb and kt. Kb is for bending and kt is for twisting, right? So those we have to multiply our bending moment. So like say whatever mb you will get, you will multiply that with your kb. It will be more than one. So your bending moment will be, whatever you got from the calculation, you will use more from more bending moment for your design, just to make sure that your design is more safe, is safer, right? So similarly, KT, you will multiply your bending, whatever twisting moment or torque you got, multiply that with the factor, so that your design is better, is safer, right? So what are these kV and KT? Now here is a table which gives you kV and KT. If the load on your shaft it is gradually applied, then your kV and KT will be, kV will be 1.5, bending moment multiply that with 1.5, twisting moment multiply that with 1. Basically, do keep as it is. If it is a gradually loaded shaft, if it is suddenly applied minor shock, but it is a minor shock, means it is suddenly applied, means one person suddenly sits on in your car, so you are applying a shock to your shaft, but it is sudden shock, right? Like or a bump in on a road, minor bump. So that time your KB will be 1.5 to 2, and your KT will be 1 to 1.5. So depending on what kind of shock, and you will slowly with your experience you will gain that, and you will use the factor. If it is very minor shock, you will take 1.5 and 1. If it is very kind of a medium shock, then you will take 2 kb, 2 as a kb and 1.5 as kt. But if it is a heavy shock, means very big, what you can say, a hole is on the road, and you have got a very big bump. So that kind of shocks are there. So that time, or sudden, what you can say, have an accident. So that time you are that kind of shock is, for that you will take KT from 2 to 3 kb and KT from 1.5 to 3. So these are the factors which will use depending on the application of the what you can say, application of the shaft, and use those in this equation of the ASME code design. So now it is a basically same formula is there, but we have a new factors. First is factor for the stress, that is it is either zero point 0.3 of SYT or 0.18 of SUT. Multiply that with 0.75 or reduce it by 25% to consider the key weight. And then for bending moment and twisting moment, we have factors. So just if we introduce these factors, then your design will remain same as whatever we discussed in the last lecture. Okay, so clear. So basically with ASME, we are not doing anything fancy. We are just introducing few factors to consider: fatigue, shock, all those things, or keyways. So to consider all that, we are just considering different factors, and we are trying to make our design safer, right? So now if this concept is clear, I will take an example of. So now see, the thing is that now we know the basic design of the shaft. Now we'll take as many examples as possible, so you will know different varieties of problems, and also you can understand. Along with that, your basic concepts will be improved, and also we will try to understand the new concept whatever we are learning in that lecture, right? So I'm going to take a numerical. Anybody has any doubt, you can ask me. What we did till now is that in the first few lectures we tried to go through basic design of the shaft. Now we are slowly advancing, right? Today we have gone through ASME design of the shaft, right? And there again the procedure will remain same. We have introduced few factors. So now when we take a numerical, we will again revise our basic procedure, and also this we will introduce new factors, right? So anybody has any doubts, ask me. So I will take example of this today's ASME code. Anybody has any doubts, you can put in a chat. You guys can hear me, right? I haven't asked that question today. I simply started. Any questions, ask me in a chat. Or you can ask me to unmute. I will unmute you, and then ask me questions.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
What is meant by KB and KT?
Did you join late?
No, sir.
Then actually we talked about it. These are the factors. B is for bending and T is for twisting.
Ha.
These are the factors which we use in a ASME code to multiply bending moment and twisting moment. And these are the, see here it is mentioned. KB is a
Yes.
combined shock and fatigue
Combined.
factor applied for the bending moment. So basically, whatever bending moment we will get, say we got 1000 Newton mm, multiply that, we will increase that. See, we will increase that means what? We try to assume that our bending moment is more, so that our design is safe. Because the more bending moment and twisting moment we will get from our calculation, our diameter will go up, and the diameter will go up means our design will be safe. Just to make sure that our design has a consideration of all the shock and fatigue. Because whatever if you don't consider these factors, or the design we did in the last lecture, the numerical we took, that these factors are not considered. So that time, that the diameter, if we use that, if we use that diameter for the design of the shaft, what will happen in case of fatigue, or if it is used for too long time and it goes under fatigue, or in case of shock, your shaft will fail. Are you getting me? So just to make sure that our shaft will not fail for the shock, our shaft will not fail for the shock or fatigue, or key waves. When we introduce key waves, we are introducing what you can say stress concentration, and then because of stress concentration, your shaft will fail earlier. So just to consider all that, we are introducing these factors. Right. So first step is we are introducing factor for the allowable stress, and then we are introducing factor for the twisting and bending moment. You got the answer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else has any question? Otherwise, I will proceed with the numerical. Okay. So any question, please kindly put that in the chat. I will try to answer that. No problem about that. Okay. So now we will take a numerical. As I said, we are taking little different approach because I want any questions I immediately answer. So we will take a numerical on the word itself. It is very the procedure is almost same apart from the factors we introduced today for the ASME. So now we have a shaft. See, look at this shaft. What are they saying? A transmission shaft is designed for heavy. Okay, this is the example. Example is below. A transmission shaft is used, for heavy load. Just hold on, just hold on. Okay, a transmission shaft designed for heavy shock load would have a larger diameter. Okay. Now we take this example, which basically is main shaft receives power from the electrical motor. It is not shown in the figure. See, on the right end of the shaft, a pulley is shown. We are getting a power input, torque or input twisting moment from the this pulley. This we are getting it from the electrical motor, right, through the bed. Now they are saying that RPM of the motor. So motor is not shown, but RPM of the motor is given 1435. Now we have got the RPM of the motor, but we need to know RPM of the shaft now. They haven't given it directly. So what we need to know the diameters of the pulley and the diameter of the motor, because if we know the ratio of those diameters, we can find out the RPM of the shaft. So see, my general approach, if you have experience, with me, then my general approach is that while try to reading the problem itself, we will try to go through a few things. So here now we know the RPM of the motor, so we need to know the RPM of the shaft. For that, if we know the ratio of the diameters, then we can find it out. And they have given the ratios, the diameters of the motor and the machine in the next line. So using those ratio, we can find the RPM of the shaft. So first step will be finding out the RPM of the shaft. Now where the RPMs will be used? RPMs will be used in finding the torque or twisting moment. Power is equal to 2 pi nt upon 60, right? So or for that RPM, we can use from there we will get the torque of the torque carried by the shaft. A motor is placed below the machine shaft such that axis of both pulleys are vertical plane. So basically, what they are trying to say is that the load or the tension in the pulleys are vertically downward. So basically, the load is it is not what is horizontal, vertical, or not a combination of that. It is a straightforward vertical. Both the strains, the loads in the these pulleys are basically both sides are on vertical loads are there. So we will just find out those two loads if we know the ratio of those loads, and we'll take a resultant load as a vertical downward load. The main shaft transmits power through spur gear in the D. Now spur gears means now this gear will not have a single directional load. It will have vertical as well as radial load. So we need to find out horizontal load and the radial load, and then we have to take a combination of those, right? So now it makes our problem complicated. Now it is not a straightforward problem. Say for the SFD BMD, we have to find out horizontal SFD BMD, vertical SFD BMD, and we have to take a resultant of that. So this is a complication in this problem. So now in this problem, what is what you can say advanced compared to the last numerical? Two things. First, we'll be using ASME code, and second thing, we will be we have to do both analysis, SFD, BMD, vertical and horizontal. Okay, let's go through that. Okay, sorry, I just want to keep the both things visible, problem as well as the, okay. The driver driven spur gear is placed above the gear D such that the axis of the shaft gear D and driven gear are the same vertical plane. So basically, the what you can say, the vertical loads are in the same plane. The power transmitted by the motor to the main shaft. So power is given. So we know power, we know the RPM, we can find out the torque. Right. So the piece circle diameter and the pressure angle of the gear are 300 mm. So now why this PCD is required? Because to find out. Now if once we know the torque, then if we know the diameter, then we can find out the load, right? Vertical or this horizontal load. So now see, the torque will be given from power, motor to shaft. Now this torque will be uniform for the all shaft. So at any location, if we want to find out the load, you have to multiply that distance, then you will get the load at that point. So once we know the torque from the pulley, then we can use that torque to find out the horizontal load P1, right? That P1 into diameter of the spur gear PCD will be basically torque. You got my point? So knowing PCD is important to find out the horizontal load at the, that is P1 at the spur gear. The ratio of tight to slack tension of the, so ratio is given T1 and T2 or P1 and P2, if you want to, whatever you want to call it. So once we know the ratio, right, then we can find out the resultant load on the pulley. The two bearings are A and B. So A and B are the bearings. So basically, if you consider from the left hand side, there is a first bearing is there, then spur gear, then bearing, and then pulley. So that is the way the shaft is designed. The properties of the material are SUT 700 Newton per mm square, SYT is 460 Newton per mm square, and modulus of G is given 79,300. So we have got these properties. Now we have given SYT and SUT. So we will use now, they are specifying that use ASME code. So what we have SYT, SUT 700. So multiply that with what you can say 0.18 and SYT 0.3. We have seen that in the previous stage, right? Multiply SYT by 0.3, SUT by 0.18 for the ASME code. So multiply, do this multiplication and try to find out the allowable stress, and whichever is minimum, we'll take that for our design, right? So what the pulley and the gear are mounted on the keyway, whatever. Using keyways means we have to use now design of the keyway. It is not straightforward. It is the fit is, they are using keyways to join the shaft with the gear. So we have to consider that now factor of 0.75 or reducing it by 0.25. Okay, let's go ahead with the design now. See, first stage, first step of this design. So now you have understood the diagram. So I will, as and when possible, I will show you the diagram. So basically there are four points are there, A, B, C, D. A and B are the bearings, C is pulley, D is your, what you can say, spur gear. So we have to find out the SFD, BMD, but because it is a spur gear, it will have a horizontal and radial load as well, right? So because of that, now this is not a simple problem. It is a problem of horizontal SFD, BMD, vertical SFD, BMD, and finding out the resultant and use that maximum bending moment for our design, right? So now see, we have to use this example, which this is. Now this allowable stress we can find out 0.3 SYT, 0.18 SUT. We can find out the allowable shear stress. We have to find out the diameter. This KB and KT we will use as per the application. And this bending moment, twisting moment is torque. We can find out the torque as we talk from the from the power. Finding out the bending moment is the most difficult part, and we will try to do that in this. That is the main important part of this problem. Okay, let's attack the problem now. First thing is finding out the allowable stresses. See, first step 0.75. Okay, 0.75. I'm just zooming it so that you are visible to 0.75 into 0.3. SYT multiplied by 0.3 to consider the ASME, and we are multiplying by 0.75 to consider for the keyway, right? So we got from that we got the shear stress as 103.5, and from the second multiplying SUT by 0.1 we got 94.5. So you out of these two minimum is 94.5. So we are going to say our allowable shear stress in the shaft is, as per the ASME code, is 94.5 Newton per mm square, right? Anybody, everybody is clear now? This is the first step. So instead of, generally what we do, we do 0.5 into SYT upon factor of safety. We are using now ASME procedure. Okay, clear? Anybody has any doubt? So if nobody says anything, I will assume that nobody has any doubt and I will proceed. Okay. So I am assuming nobody has doubt. So now we will go further. So this is the, see, this is our regular general design, but we are just, doing advanced, using advanced ASME procedure. Okay. Okay. So let's proceed now. Where was I? Okay. So now RPM of the shaft is given 1435. As I said, if we know the factors, of the diameters of the pulley and this your motor, then we can find out the RPM. And using this equation, multiplied by 1435, 180 is and 430. See, 180 is given here. 180 is diameter of the motor and 435 is the diameter of the pulley. So using that ratio, we can find out the RPM of the shaft as 600. Now twisting moment torque is equal to, this is the formula, 2 pi nt upon 60, but we are taking power in kilowatt and this torque in Newton mm. So multiply that with 10 raised to 6. So torque is equal to 16 into power in kilowatt into 10 raised to 6 upon 2 pi m. So power is given as 15 kilowatt and we got in a previous test 600. So we got twisting moment as 238,732 Newton mm. Okay. So we did two things. First, we found allowable shear stress and then we have found out the torque. So main two things are done, right? Now we have to do the tedious task of finding out the bending moment. Okay, clear? So now slowly we'll go step by step. We'll take an approach. First, now we know the twisting moment torque, at the pulley. So and we know the tensions T1 and T2. Now for finding out bending moment, we need to find out all the loads. We need to find out T1, T2 so that we can find out the resultant load at C. We need to find out horizontal load at the this spur gear, radial load at the spur gear. Then use this vertical loads in a vertical SFD BMD, horizontal loads in horizontal SFD BMD, and then find out the resultant. This is the procedure we are going to take. So basically now we are going to find out all the loads, vertical loads at the pulley, horizontal vertical load at the spur gear, reactions at the bearing. So we are going to find out all those in the next procedure. Okay. How we'll do that? Now first we have to find out the resultant load at the pulley. For that we need to know the tension in 1 and tension 2, or tension on the tight and slack side. So torque is equal to T1 minus T2 into R, right? Shaft of the radius of the shaft, right? Radius of the pulley. So T1 minus T2 into 215 is the radius of the pulley. They have given it somewhere. The radius of the pulley is 215. Let me just see where it is given. Okay, where is that radius of the pulley is given? 215. I'm just trying to, okay, this 430 is given now. 430 is the diameter of the pulley. 180 is the diameter of the motor and 430 is that. So diameter of the pulley is 430. So half of that will be radius of the pulley, 215, right? So we know that 215 is the radius of the pulley. We T1 and minus TS will be the multiplied by the radius of the pulley will be the torque. So we know that, and we know the ratio of tight and slack side. It is given as 3. Tight to slack side ratio is 3. So using those two equations, T1 TT minus TS is equal to 110, right? And TT is equal to 3TS. We can find out TS and TT. So what is TS? From that we get TS. Tension on the slack side as 555 and tension on the tight side as 3 times of it, 1665.5. Right. Now we know the tensions on the tight and slack side, but both the tensions are downwards. Right. So now they will add, as you know, we have seen this in the last example also. These tensions will add, and we will have a resultant downward load or this thing at the pulley as 2220. So we have 10 minutes left. So I would like to finish this problem. So this resultant load at the pulley will be addition, because both are acting downwards. So addition of these two loads, TS and TT. So it will sum will be 2220 0.77. Now we got the load at the pulley. Now we have to find the load at the gear. Now again the torque is same, right? Whatever torque is, we got 238, 732. The torque into radius of the spur gear, this diameter of the gear is given as 300. So radius will be 150. So to find out the horizontal force acting on the teeth of the gear, right? The normal force basically is basically that load into radius of the PCD, radius of the gear is basically your torque. So from that we will get the normal force acting on the teeth, or that will be the horizontal force, right? Now once we know the horizontal force, right, we can find out the radial force. Why? Because we know they have given this pressure angle of 20 degree. Now pressure angle or tan theta is equal to PR upon PT, right? Radial force upon this tangential load, right? So from that we can find out the radial load as 579. So tangential load we got 1591 multiplied by tan 20, you will get 579. So now we got both these loads. So now this is our, we got all the loads. We got TT, we got the resultant load at the pulley. Now we know the tangential load at the spur gear as 1591 and radial load is 579 from the pressure angle. Now we got the loads at this gear and the pulley, right? Now we'll go ahead and we'll try to find the reactions at the what you can say bearings. Now to finding out the reactions, see now this is the diagram. Okay. Now so in this diagram, now we know that we have to draw two diagrams. One is horizontal plane, one is vertical plane. Now horizontal force is only one. Okay. Now see this horizontal force is only one, which is acting at spur gear, which is 1591. And now it is opposed by the two reactions, horizontal reactions at A and B. Okay. I will repeat. In the horizontal plane, see there are green color is shown by are the forces or the loads. Horizontal load is only one, that is spur gear, that is tangential load 1591. It is supported by reactions at A and B. And since they are equidistant, so if we take moment and all that, do all that, so it will be equal half of the 1591, right? So here, we will try to take a what you can say horizontal reaction, and the load will be half of this. So 1591, half of that 750, 795, 78. So reactions at what you can say A and B, that is horizontal reactions, will be half of your 1591. So we can find out, we have found out the horizontal reactions at A and B. Now similarly, we have to find out the vertical reactions. Right. Now to find out the vertical reaction is not sure because there are two vertical forces. Vertical force PR acting at spur gear and resultant load acting at the acting at pure pulley. So take a look at this diagram. So a resultant at C the resultant load is 2220. We calculated that right here 2220, and at gear resultant load is 579 is the radial load, right? We calculated that is here. So we have two vertical loads, 579 at D and 2220 at C. Now we have to find out reaction at A and B. For that, we will use bending moment equation. So take a bending moment at A, right? Take a bending moment at it. What will happen? 579 into this distance is I think 300, right? All the distances are 300. Let me just verify. 300, 300, 300. So right. So take a bending moment at A is equal to clockwise 579 into 300 multiplied by reaction at B multiplied by 600, right? This is like this minus this plus 2220 into 900. So but see like this if we equate this equation 2220 into 900 plus 579 into 30 is equal to reaction at what you can say taking moment at B, so reaction at B, right? So we got Q reaction at B as 3620, right? So using this reaction we can find out at B. Now similarly we take a moment at B and try to find the reaction at A. So taking moment of B, we will basically what is 2220 into 300. So this 2220 into 300, right, is equal to P into 600. Now this P reaction at A into 600 and 579 into 300, right? So equating that, we get reaction at A as 820.75. So basically what we did, we have put the work. So very simple thing is that we have to do two analysis, horizontal and vertical. Horizontal load is only one, which is at the center. So half of that will be the horizontal reactions, right? Vertical load is one at pulley resultant and one at the gear. To put those two loads in the, so this in the diagram, and then try to find out reaction at A by taking moment at B and reaction at B by taking moment at A. Okay, and from that we will get, we have got all these reactions. So we have now three vertical load downward and one vertical load upward. Okay, and similarly one horizontal load downwards and two vertical horizontal, two loads upwards in a horizontal plane. Okay, now we have got it. Now we have to simply find out the bending moments at all these points and take a resultant of it. Now see our bending moment, how we can see now. See here, this bending moment is explained. So bending moment at A. Let me just unzoom it so that it is visible in one shot. So bending moment at A is basically considered from the left hand side, or if you consider from the right hand side, again you will take a resultant will be zero. This is the concept of SFD BMD from the strength of material. Okay, so whatever way you go on the left side or right side, is you'll get the same result. So I'm taking going from the left hand side. Bending moment at A is 0. Bending moment at D is equal to, only on the left hand side there is only one force, that is 820 downwards. So 820 multiplied by 300. So you get 246,225 Newton mm. Bending moment at B is, there are two forces, 820 multiplied by 600 and same direction 579 multiplied by 300. Right. So that is the result, and you get 666,234 Newton mm. And at C, now on the left hand side there are three forces, two downwards, one upward. So this will be 820 multiplied by 900 plus 579 multiplied by 600 minus 3620 reaction at point B multiplied by 300. So that will be the bending. So it is basically, it will come down to 0. So that we got bending moments in a vertical plane. And if we plot those, we will get a diagram like this. 0, 246, 225, 666, 231 and 0. Okay. So this is a bending moment diagram for the vertical plane. Similarly, in the horizontal plane, there are three forces. So bending moment at, again we get the same procedure. Bending moment at A is 0. Bending moment at D is 14795 multiplied by 300. But it is it is making your this load will it will be negative bending moment. So minus 238 734. Just add again bending moment at point B will be 795 into 600 minus 1591 into 300. So it will be again come back to 0. And then at obviously C it will be 0, because if you take if you consider from the right hand side it will be 0, or if you consider from the left hand side you have to say 795 into 900 plus 1591 into 600 minus 795 into 300. So it will come down to 0. So this is the bending moment diagram for this is horizontal plane. So now we have got two bending moments, vertical, horizontal. Now we have to find out the resultant. See, only I think our session will break in few minutes. So let's just see now how to find out. Take a resultant of this. Take a square and add. So point A, take square of 26. What you can say? 26, 246, 225 square plus 238, 734 square root of that, and at this other point take a 666 231. This other moment is 0, so it will be 666. So using these two, we'll get a resultant moment. Maximum is 666 231, where the other horizontal is 0. So this is the maximum bending moment, and we will use that bending moment in our in our equation to find out the resultant here. Right? So this is the design. Here KT and KT we taken as if you take two different KV and KT, 1 and 1.5, we'll get two different diameters, and depending on the application we will use the diameter, right? So this is the procedure for the design. Okay, I think we have still 1 minute left. So after this, I think we have completed the problem. So we have to find out both horizontal and vertical moments and take a resultant of that.